And usually when Pluto, you know, gets back on track, goes direct, we're going to feel some umph with that movement.
And so like we started off strong, and I was hopeful. I was so hopeful.
We're on this learning journey just like many of you might be. Think of us as your curious companions as we stumble, learn, and hopefully gain some genuine insights.
So if you're curious about your birth chart, wondering what the tarot card really means, or just looking for some relatable company on your spiritual learning path, then Stars and Shuffles is for you. Get ready to explore the universe within and around us. All right, well, you ready to talk about
October?
October?
Hell yeah. Let's do this.
Like, which one are we on? No, it's still so funny yesterday whenever you sent me that. And I was just like, they're so much alike. I was like, anybody that wants to say tarot's not real, astrology's not real, I was like, they can say it. But the fact is that I read the tarot separately and you read the astrology separately before we talked. And then we
Yeah.
shared, and I was like, the same thing.
I think we're definitely gonna have to do a episode where it connects because I think they have like tarots that are connected to like the energies of the planet, energies of the zodiac signs. That would be an interesting one to do of like connecting those dots
Mm-hmm.
because it makes sense, right? Why everything's just interconnected.
So we can start with like we always do so I have, the overarching theme for this month, and then first, second, third, and fourth week. And I did these like 1 to 7, 8 to 14. That's like what I was thinking of, since our weeks are not even.
Yeah.
I was like, so it does leave the last couple of days still is in limbo. But last time we did that, we ended up with the Wheel of Fortune, which literally is like anything could happen. So I'm like, I feel like it was telling us that the last 3 days should just be left alone. And then we end with, is it a positive or negative month? And as these were pulling, my eyes were like,
Oh
why?
man.
So we'll start at the beginning here of the overarching theme for the month. And we keep getting our good repeater, which is the Three of Pentacles, and it's reversed. It showed up in every reading we've done since we started the podcast for the months. And so it's not ready to leave. It's here for a good time and a long time. So if you remember from previous episodes, though, our Three of Pentacles is around collaboration, also around money, and just like what that looks like. But again,
Yeah.
we have a reverse, and its reverse meaning can definitely mean financial insecurities. It can be the direct meaning, it said, is the economy's in a slump, and like it had me like cry laughing when I read it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, so real. And so that's kind of the overarching theme, unfortunately, for this month, is a lot of financial things, and to kind of hold your money probably a little bit tighter. And we see that play out as we keep reading the tarot. And I know we're going to see that with astrology too. So share it with us.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was just gonna make a note on the card itself. I definitely get that sense of the card is known for kind of almost like a collective, right, working together, and given that now it's reversed, it's the opposite. I feel like there are so many, um it's a good term for it, just everybody's like segregated in their own little world, right,
Yeah.
and we're not unified.
All the different pockets we're all in, kind of.
Yeah,
Sorry.
everybody's in their own yeah, no, keep going. Everybody's in their own little pockets for sure. So I can definitely see that theme, and it's yeah, as I say, connecting it to, you know, the vibe at least that I got from just the planet transits that we're seeing for October
Mm-hmm.
is we're gonna go from this harmonious, balanced, collective state into a more intense
Mm-hmm.
transformation, right? And I mean, it depends on the rising sign for what that means for each rising sign, but as a whole, everybody's going through some deep dive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we're going to see that really play out through all of the cards. However, if we go into week one, we start with a really good card. We get the Sun.
Heck yeah.
You know, it is a bright card. It is fun. It is not reversed. And I'll say, like, I know in August, almost everything was reversed. September,
Yeah.
it kind of flipped around. October, it's a good balance. It's a 50-50 what's reversed, but some of the things that are reversed, we would prefer to switch, and the
Hmm.
non-reversed could switch back over to. So, but our first week is the sun. And so it's actually like a really positive. Like there's a lot of good things happening. You're excited. You're looking forward to something and probably have a lot of energy, which is exciting that we're going
Yeah.
into a lot of energy and things like that, even though the overarching theme is probably not as positive. Our first week's really good. And so does that kind of correlate with like what's happening?
Yeah. Yeah. Because we're still in Libra season. That first week, and so we have the sun and Mars and Venus kind of all chilling in Libra, right, which is the sign of like fairness, beauty, partnerships. It's definitely like the energy is giving. It's a time for social events. It's a time to, resolve conflicts with diplomacy, and it's just a feeling sense of all, like just enjoying the aesthetic pleasures
Mm-hmm.
surrounding us. So I definitely got that, you know, vibe as well, where it's good energy that we'll be working with.
All right. I was like, that's good. I was looking at where we ended September, and we ended on our fourth week with the Page of Pentacles, if we don't count our Wheel of Fortune, you know. And the Page of Pentacles was all about that childlike wonder and new beginnings, which is like a really good going straight into the sun of, that excitement and all that extra energy. So like high vibration, success, all those things are
Hmm.
happening in that first week. And so like we started off strong, and I was hopeful. I was so hopeful.
You're like, okay, what's next? What's coming?
And so then we get to week two, and again, two cards fell out in week two. And so we had the Six of Pentacles with the Nine of Pentacles reversed. And the Six of Pentacles is about generosity. You're like wanting to give. And so, of course, when we look at Pentacles, a lot of people compare them to coins. And so you get that monetary side of it. But,
Hmm.
it could be giving time, it could be just being there for people, helping people, and things like that. And then when we get our Nine of Pentacles,
Yeah.
since she is reversed, it is saying, you might regret something in this. Like maybe
Mm.
you've given too much. Because
Yeah.
typically the nine is like the success. We did what we sought out to do. However, her being reversed kind of brings us back of maybe something that we were doing didn't bring the result we wanted it to. Maybe we expended too much, and maybe like if we're looking at like the monetary side of it, maybe don't give the money, give your time. If we look at time as our resource,
Yeah.
and you're used to giving 150%, like maybe just give 100, maybe just give 90% of
Yeah.
what you're
Yeah.
usually giving, because the nine is telling us like we're going to overdo it. And
Mm.
so it's kind of creating that balance, which is, poetic in a sense, getting a six and a nine together there in reverse. It's that balance of, hey, nope, you're going to overdo it, is how I kind of look at those two together. And so what's happening in week two with the stars?
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned that, 'cause I was actually going to ask if, we could even say there's a connection to overcommitment, because that's what I get with the stars, right?
Yeah.
Is as you have like all this energy, great time for social and events and stuff, you get to the point where it's, you can overcommit, and there's
Mm-hmm.
that caution, right? Of you don't overexert yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that definitely aligns with like your week two, and that's how I'm reading it as is, as we're, putting ourselves out there, trying to help, trying to connect with, our communities, and, you know uh, resolve issues where we can, trying to find balance
Mm-hmm.
and refining that, and making sure that we're not overdoing it in those aspects is what I get.
Oh yeah, and like that is perfect into like the overcommitment side of it. So we got the Knight of Wands reversed for week three, which is about burnout. And so typically our Knight of
Mm,
Wands is excited, like the driving forward. We have wands which are fire anyway, so there's that passion, that drive in them. And then when we get the Knight, they're very charismatic. They're like, fighting for those things they want.
yeah.
We flip it over, he's now burnt out. Maybe some of that charisma is not showing up the way we want it to,
Yeah.
because we've overcommitted probably to something in week two that is leading us into week three, where we're just not there in the way and showing up the way we would normally show up.
Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense because as you know, we're transitioning from Libra season into Scorpio season. We're actually
Hmm.
going to have not only the sun in Scorpio, but we're going to have Mercury and Mars
Yeah.
entering Scorpio as well. So, Mercury is the planet of communication.
Hmm.
Scorpio is a very intense sign. That's what they're known for, intensity and transformation. And Mars is the planet of action. So, this energy is, you know, going from this lightheartedness to now you're going to start going like into more intense
Hmm.
uh a more intense vibe, right? It may be that as you're having conversations things may just get more intense. It may be as you're saying, if people are burnt out, right,
Hmm.
their shadow's going to come out, their true colors are going to come out, where they're
Yeah.
just going to have these pretty harsh conversations
Yeah.
potentially.
Yeah, and that's the exact like when your charisma's not
Yeah.
working, like it means it's the opposite of charismatic. Typically is
Yeah.
like harsh conversations, probably not showing up or saying the things that you wanted to say because you have high emotions, which Mercury seems to always bring for everybody. so, so yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense and definitely matches up with our a Knight of Wands reversed here for us. Um, yeah, so that kind of leads us into our fourth week, which was our Queen of Pentacles. And so this one is really interesting. Let's move these out of the way. So, so our Queen of Pentacles, when she came out, like, so normally you have either straight up or you have reverse,
Yeah.
but she landed like exactly parallel and she was face up already.
Whoa.
So it's kind of like, I felt if I moved her either way, it would be like unfair. It'd be like unreading it in a way.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of reading it as a sideways card now. And so it's in between being upright or being reversed. And so it's taking that meaning on both sides. It could really lean either way, and it's going to depend on what you do with it. And our Queen of Pentacles is typically like a very strong feminine energy,
Yeah.
a sense of security, especially when it comes to our worldly possessions, because it's pentacle, and so the money, the time,
Mhm.
anything like that. And so, what I read with our Queen of Pentacles is in our fourth week, we need to find that safety. So,
Mm.
are we surrounding ourselves by people that we feel safe? Are we being in places that make us feel safe? And things like that. Because if we are not, the Queen of Pentacles can easily flip either direction because what she is wanting that week is that safety and security in the things she's doing. And like that's like she came sideways. Like I was like, I can't push you.
Yeah.
so, and so it's really up to you, you know, which way we're gonna go. Are we gonna have a week where we're like, okay, I found my security, I'm good? Or are we still pushing maybe some of our boundaries, becoming more burnt out into a place that we're not allowing ourselves to rest in that place of security? Is where our queen leaves us in week 4.
Wow, you know, it's crazy. The term security
Mm-hmm.
definitely stands out because that's another attribute of, you know, Scorpios. Their that energy is, you know, their sense of security, being able to trust. And it's very hard to
Mm-hmm.
get that trust, right? So that energy aligns, right? Where it's almost like you're going to be in this state where you want to have deeper conversations with people. You kind of want to know, like, who are my real
Mm-hmm.
people, or what are the things that are actually like I'm deeply invested in,
Mm-hmm.
and give me a sense of, you know, security and make me feel fulfilled
Mm-hmm.
almost in a way. Um, there's definitely a lot of that too.
Yeah. And where, well, two parts here. Another part that was with the queen, it's usually, you know, you found like your harmonious balance between your work and home life.
Hmm.
And so I'm just curious where in the planets kind of are those transitionings happening in the houses of work, home life, and security? And do they kind of match up with like the Queen of Pentacles at the last week of September, October, last week of October?
So I guess what you're asking, like, is the
Yeah, so what planets are in, I guess, the houses, like certain houses, or like what's it like looking like in the astrology around security, home life, work life, kind of those things?
yeah, yeah. It would, you know, again, depend on the rising's going to
Mhm,
depend on where those planets are within what house and like what specific aspect is
mhm,
targeting it. I will say, for Libra risings, it's going to be a big one because Scorpio is in their second house, which is the house of assets,
mhm,
self worth, value. Um, and you have Mercury, Mars, and the sun in there. So you will, they're going to see a lot of like deep reflection, contemplation, maybe even conversations about finances, financial security. Where am I at? Like how, uh, kind of like some long term planning, like where is it that I could like get to, and kind of like realizing, what's worth my time so I
mhm,
can get to those long term goals. So that's, their second house versus, Scorpio is the 12th house for Sagittarius rising.
mhm,
So they're more thinking about, this spiritual transformation almost is they're going like inward. And I will say Sag risings, because you guys, you hear it a lot in our podcast where it's a lot of like going inward. I will say the Sag risings have definitely like felt that the most this year,
yeah.
because that's a lot of their themes as these planets are going in. It's you're getting pushed to continuously like go deeper, figure out the hidden truths within yourself, because that's the 12th house, right?
Okay.
Of uh, hidden secrets, hidden uh just hidden things.
Mhm.
And so, um that, as you could see, like there's a difference in where these rising signs are going to be seeing that kind of activity.
Yeah. And I'm excited. On an episode soon, we'll be talking about houses and what's happening in those houses.
Yes, yes,
So,
I definitely doing a more like basic tutorial of the houses. There are, you know, the zodiac signs who are the traditional rulers of each house. So we'll break that down, um, and make a little more sense for you guys.
and don't worry, I'll be asking all the questions. So, all right. So, kind of wrapping up here with the tarot. So that was our fourth week, and so I always end with like, is it a positive or a negative month? And honestly, even this month, like I debated not pulling that because I'm like, it's so subjective. Like we can say it's positive, we can say the card's a negative. Like
Yeah.
heck, I pulled the lover, and I was like, is our character going to be a hero or a villain? They pulled the lover. I was like, oh, they're definitely a hero. And then like the information was like, no, they're not. Like, it might not be. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So like I find like very close questions like this very hard. However, I was like, screw it, let's still pull it. And we got the five, yeah, like five of swords here. And the five of
Oh.
swords, I don't know if you've ever seen it before. And it was upright, but it's a very like rememberable card
Yeah.
because there's five swords. Two of them are on the ground, and one person has three of them. And then two people are walking away, and one person almost looks like they're crying
Yeah.
and like they're sad. And so it's a question of, you know, ego is where this comes
Oh.
in. And so when we look at it as like, is this a positive or negative month? Because in this card, there was probably some kind of conflict, and he won. Like clearly, he has a sword. He's walking this way. He also has like a very mischievous grin on his face in this card. Two
Yeah.
swords are on the ground, and two people are walking away. And so it is like he has probably, or in this card, you have probably letting your ego get bigger than it needs to be. You are letting
Mm.
yourself, you know, I don't know what the word is right now. It's like not coming to me. But that's all what this card really is about. It's like your ego got too big, it created a conflict. You may feel like you've won, but did you really win right
Yeah.
now? And so when we look at this as like, is this a positive or negative month? Again, I don't think it's like straight cut of is positive, is negative. If we just look at it, sounds like a shit month. However, I think this tells us that overall our month will be dictated by how we personally let our ego shine. Are
Yeah.
we being very egotistical, or are we checking ourselves and, you know, learning to humble a little bit in what we're doing? And that is how this month will be, whether it's positive or negative, which is hilarious because I know the stars are telling us very similar things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you on the mindset there too, where obviously, sometimes we don't see the beauty, even though we were thrown these challenges we weren't expecting. And I would say that towards the end of October, as we're entering Scorpio season and entering this intense energy, there may be some power dynamic conflicts. Like that's what I thought of when I saw that card is, there's some power dynamic issues for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And we always have to remember to, go back to who is my higher self? Like, what is my authentic self? I'm hoping that people are humble out there. You don't let their heads get too high. But, you know, um, I feel like there are going to be winners and losers because I think that there are people out there that are selfish. They are thinking of just
Mm-hmm.
themselves. And if you come across those people, really think about, what was I supposed to learn here? Because
Mm-hmm.
it may not be that you have to close your heart per se. It may just be that you have to be a little more cautious and learn how to navigate those certain personalities, kind of,
Yeah,
become more aware of
oh
those
yeah,
red flags.
definitely. A lot of navigating certain
Yes.
personalities. Personalities are tough,
Yes.
just in
Yes.
general, making sure you navigate them well. But is there anything else happening on the astrology side in October that we should highlight?
Yeah, so Pluto is going direct in
That means like
Aquarius.
out of
So
retrograde.
it's out of retrograde.
So,
And usually when Pluto, gets back on track, goes direct, we're going to feel some umph with that movement. So some, big change. I know so much change happening around us, but there will be big change, but it'll be more on a collective level. It
mm-hmm,
won't so much be an individual level. So we'll most likely see it like in the world, if
mm-hmm.
that makes sense. Um, so it'd be interesting to see what happens with that. Because
No,
that's what Aquarius is about. They're
okay.
about community, collective. I believe they even rule the 11th house of, which is the house of community, um, happiness,
Okay. I was gonna
unfortunately.
say, so this scenario is also the one we talked earlier about, kind of last time Pluto was what do you call it? Like
Was
straight on.
Oh, direct, going
Direct.
direct.
Yeah. Last
Yeah.
time Pluto went direct in Aquarius was a time of war. Right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So when Pluto's in Aquarius, right? Because you could almost think of Aquarius as that rebel without a cause energy.
They try to
They're
get
the
rid of
odd,
him. Of
yeah.
course, of course you're gonna be a rebel.
Yeah, they're the odd ones out, but Aquariuses bring just so much value because they're so different, because they think differently,
Hmm.
right? Um, and they're ones to not shy away from, no, like, just because you all think that doesn't mean I'm going to mold into thinking that.
Hmm.
So that's the kind of energy that Aquarius brings. And then Pluto is the planet of, transformation, power dynamics. So think about that, right? We got this strong planet, Pluto, and then Aquarius, already more rebel energy. So rebels with rebels is just like rebellion.
Gotcha.
I'm not saying there's gonna be a big
No.
war. In fact, it's not by any means, guys.
Yeah.
But it's just, you know, just a lot of intense energy this month,
Hmm.
right? On not and to reframe it, right? Not just on an individual level, but you're gonna see it on an external, like, collective level as well. So
Yeah.
that's why it's so intense, is because you're seeing it on both spectrums, and
Hmm.
it's hitting you. We're like, my gosh, like, all this crazy stuff is happening in, like, my personal life. Oh my gosh, like, all this crazy stuff's happening in the world. Like, why is there so much craziness?
Hmm. Because Pluto's direct in Aquarius.
Blame Pluto. Blame Pluto.
Oh, poor Pluto. So, all right. Just to end here with a recap. So I'll do a recap of tarot, and then you can recap like what's happening in the stars. And so we have our overarching theme of our Three of Pentacles reverse, which is telling us to there could be some financial struggles this month and things like that. And so just to be cautious, and that's just like an overarching theme, which matches really good up with our astrology. But then going into week one, we have the sun, which is coming right off of our hold on, September, which was our Page of Pentacles, which was that spark of energy, leading us into the sun, which is again a lot of excitement, new things. Like we are excited for this new energy that's coming in for us. And then we go into week two, where we have our Six of Pentacles with a Nine of Pentacles reversed. And our six is wanting to give, they want to share, they want to help as much as they can. And our nine, typically, if she was not reversed, would be very happy, fulfilled. However, she isn't. She's the opposite. And so that leads us to think maybe we gave too much of something away.
Mm-hmm.
And so kind of be cautious of how much you're giving out, whether it's money, time, energy, all those things around us. Be cautious. Otherwise, we are in that moment, we'll probably be really excited and later on have that remorse that maybe we did too much or didn't do what we wanted to do in the way we wanted to do it either. And then our third week, our Knight of Wands, he is reversed for us, where normally he'd be very charismatic. Now he's struggling with his charismaticness. And so he's in that struggle, maybe burnt out, just not wanting like to do the things he normally does. And so that really leads us, going from our Six of Pentacles and our nine reversed into our Knight of Wands makes sense. If you overdo something, you are probably going to lead to burnout. And so in our last week, we have our Queen of Pentacles, not up or down, completely sideways, telling us to find our safe space, whether that is with family, a certain location, find the security that will put you in a place that you are happy and fulfilled, so that all the stress that's happening to you, at least you're in a bubble of happiness and goodness.
Yeah.
Because we end with, is it a positive or negative month? Get our Five of Swords, who inherently would look negative potentially, but it really comes down to your ego and how you manage it this month. If you let your ego get away with you, it might not be the best month. And so learning how to step back, humble a little bit on things, and probably pause, which I know we said a lot last month, was pause, reflect, sit your butt down. That is really reflecting on that money side of it and making sure your ego doesn't get too big is where that positive or negative will kind of define you. So
Yeah, yeah, and it definitely aligns with the stars as, we start off with Libra energy at the beginning, the Sun, Mars, Venus, all being in Libra. We definitely have this go lucky, awesome time with everybody. You're like pumped, motivated, and you're going to go on that trek, right? That as you're approaching so much like awesomeness and fun and newness, you're going to overexert yourself if you're not careful. And you're going to start to feel it energetically, where it's starting to be less happy, less go lucky, less lightheartedness. And it's going to start to get more intense, in the way of just, you're feeling emotions more intensely. You're having more intense conversations with the intention, right? That the goal is to go deeper. It's not surface level anymore. We're really like digging into the root of whatever it is that you're facing,
mm,
is how I'm reading the energy. And I almost see this as like, right, you're being pushed in this direction, because what Scorpio season's helping us do, in October, is it's almost giving us kind of like a cleanse, a purge of, where we're coming across this intensity with the intention that you're cleansing out what no longer serves you anymore. And it will lead, it's a similar, like, as you're doing that, there's going to be, I wouldn't say, like, as I said before, winners and losers. I mean, some people are going to feel like they came out ahead more than others. You may take some losses, who knows? But I always like to see, even when I have losses happen in my life, it's not so much losses, because it opens the door to something new.
yeah, learn something from it regardless
Yeah.
of what you're doing. So
Yeah.
all right, well, that was October. If you're listening to this before October, be prepared. If you're listening to this after October, let us know if anything resonated with you, because it's always good to see how it actually worked out.
Yeah. Thank you
Yep.
guys.